Project Voltron 5. This discussion, we're going to get into language and its manipulation. In particular, dealing with definitions, well, common language, and how those definitions are manipulated legally. For those who are experienced in the use of Black's Law Dictionary with respect to doing legal research, putting together certain documentation and going into court. For those who have gotten some strategic use out of doing that, to tell you how far certain powers that be will go to adjust the playing field. Do a comparison between Black's Law Dictionary, the 6th edition, the 7th edition, and the 8th edition. Now, just in my experience, while I was in the process of doing my own study and drafting legal documentation to go into court. Oh, that background sound to plane. Give that some time to fly over. Okay. Again, in my experience, I was making use of Black's Law Dictionary, the 6th edition. I had noticed in the 7th edition that the publishers had actually stripped the legal definitions of any and all references to background information of the various court cases that contributed to the consensus on that particular legal definition. Yes, this is the 7th edition, Black's Law Dictionary. Very interesting that they would go out of their way to do that. Almost to suggest that for those who were unaware that they would not be able to go into court and embarrass any number of judges and district attorneys using the 7th edition as they'd been able to with the 6th edition. But that said, how are you going to have a law dictionary with legal definitions with no reference to court cases that contributed towards the consensus of those legal definitions? Well, the 7th edition, they managed to get away with it. Well, for a little while, anyway. This was corrected in the 8th edition. This is why I'm asking you guys, if you are in the position to do so when you have the chance, see if you can get a hold of all three, or get a chance to briefly compare all three. You'll see what I'm talking about in terms of manipulation of the language. Now, what does this have to do with the practical application of your personal sovereignty? How you express your freedom? Well, in terms of you use language to communicate, other people use language to communicate with you, expressing ideas and concepts, and there's a great deal of deception that is employed in the manipulation of the language. In the case of legal definitions, it's entirely possible for one word to be given a very particular, distinct definition in an entire paragraph, where that definition, that particular definition of that one word in that one paragraph only applies to that paragraph, to then have that same word for the rest of the document have a completely different meaning. And if you don't know what you're looking at when you're looking at it, you'll read the entire thing interpreting that document in a particular way and be completely led astray as to that document's true meaning. Very slick. Very slick. This is what you're dealing with. Okay, that's another plane. Yes, this is what you have to contend with. This is the sophistication of the level of deception involved in the manipulation of the language. So, something you want to be on the lookout for, and it's something that you may have to employ yourself in terms of outmaneuvering those that would seek to decorate your wrists with handcuffs. Yeah. So, may do a follow-up video on this topic, I'm not sure. But I think you guys get my general idea in terms of watching your language and getting a deeper understanding of the effect the use of your language has on other people in terms of how they perceive and interpret what you are telling them or not telling them, because it's all communication. And how media is being used to manipulate your perceptions of what is going on. So, hoping that this will contribute to your greater awareness of you having a better assessment of those who would attempt to manipulate your perception of the reality around you. And that once you're consciously aware of this manipulation, that you can actively circumvent it, outmaneuver it, or at the very least see it for what it is and act appropriately. So again, when you have the opportunity, do a comparison between Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, 7th edition, or the 7th edition and the 8th edition. And the differences should be glaring. If you're able to compare all three, that would be even better, but who knows? I mean, that's assuming you're able to get a hold of all three. And you'll see in terms of definitions and how they're manipulated in the maneuvering of the language. And you can even expand this exercise into other documentation that you may read or watch or listen to, as is a growing popularity in audio and video media, which is great. But do take the time to continue reading as well. You want to see to it that your brain gets adequate, proper exercise. Let's have a greater discernment so that you have a sharper perception of what's going on while it's happening, and not fall prey to someone's manipulation of your perception. Project Voltron 5, out.